Hello everybody, what's up and welcome to the channel where we learn to be true heroes in the world of Overwatch. Today I have a full match commentary between NiP and Faze. This was the Gosu Gamers Weekly Finals. NiP is up one match because they came out of the winner's bracket. But anyway, the reason I chose this match in particular is because I wanted to look at, people are calling it the NiP strat, the 3-3 strat. Anyway, if you look at NiP on defense, you see a Roadhog, Zarya, Reinhardt, 3 tanks, plus Ana, Lucio, Zenyatta, 3 supports. And they've seen quite a bit of success with this lineup. Other teams are picking it up. Some casters are saying it's unbeatable. People don't know what to do. So let's take a look at it and let's see if it really is unbeatable. Anyway, Faze is going to be trying a couple different things this match. A bunch of different wonky strats. So they're pretty much running a mirror to NiP's lineup right now, except instead of the Zenyatta, they're running a Mei. And the reason for that is they're going to try to catch out Fraggy, who likes to stand up pretty far, further than most Reinhardts, particularly in the 3-3 comp, and they're going to wind up getting him. But Himsy actually winds up getting a hook on too easy, so they wind up trading out the Roadhog. It's actually a 5v5 right now, but because Reinhardt is such an important character, such an important player, Faze is going to wind up being able to push in here. They wind up picking off the Ana for NiP, so now it's a 4v5. We get the freeze on the Roadhog, but there's no damage to actually take him out. The shield comes in afterwards to save him, and that is a big problem with Faze's lineup right now. They just don't have any damage. They can't push NiP's 3 tanks, 3 heals off this point, really. And you can see that NiP is in a pretty good position to retake. They're getting set up, but they wind up stepping on the point just barely half a second too late and giving Faze the point. But this actually looked pretty dicey for Faze. NiP is in a good position to retake. They have everybody up. And I don't think that without being able to pick off the Reinhardt like that really huge advantage, I don't think that Faze would have been able to push them off. And that would have been a huge time waste. But NiP winds up basically donating the point, stepping on a little bit too late, giving Faze the opportunity to keep pushing forward. We see that Faze is up a little bit on the ultimates, not too much. NiP definitely has a fighting chance for this next up matchup. We see no roof control coming out from either team because they have really no range, but a big Reinhardt ultimate is going to be able to let Faze get through here. They might have used a couple too many ults, but NiP definitely burned a lot of ults of their own. NiP still is going to wind up having Roadhog, Lucio, and Ana for this next fight, compared to just the lone Ana ult for Faze. Shadowburn's really going to have to get his ults up on Mei. That's going to be very important. So ulted Reinhardt winds up getting out, but he doesn't really connect with anybody. He winds up charging into the wall. And that's going to be a lot of DPS lost for NiP. And we're going to see that Faze is going to take advantage of it, wind up getting the Reinhardt ultimate off, and pushing through. Faze is going to try to pick off the stragglers from NiP and close spawn, but they're not going to be able to because they just don't really have any damage. And that's just not something for this round that I'm saying. This is a theme for the entire match. Now, I know I haven't been talking explicitly about the 3-3 strat yet. We're just sort of getting our feet wet, taking a look at what's going on. But I want you to particularly pay attention to the damage output from both teams from various distances. And we might find something peculiar about this strat. So Zombs is going to launch a Zarya ult, and 2EZ is going to farm up his own ult on Tracer, use the bomb, pick off the Ana and the Zarya. Huge players, right? But we're going to just sort of sit here for a little while, and no one's really going to die. We have no Ana ult up for either team, meaning the primary big DPS dealer, the Reinhardt with that Ana ult, isn't going to be there. So Faze is not able to capitalize on a Zarya Tracer combo double kill. But we see here they're going to engage again. 2 Ana ults come out, also the Roadhog ult, and really now it's about which Reinhardt goes down first. It looks like Faze's Reinhardt wound up getting stunned, slept, and so Faze's Reinhardt is going to go down, meaning NiP gets a huge advantage and winds up cleaning up the fight. So NiP actually does their first major hold of this map. They actually wind up stopping Faze. 4 minutes left on the clock, quite a huge amount of time. Even if they stall for a couple more minutes, that's still a good time for Faze to be finishing up Hollywood on offense. So we're going to see that Mafu does an interesting play here, and that's he goes up and he aggressively uses his Zarya ultimate. They're going to wind up cleaning up all of Faze's squad, but didn't really accomplish that much. Let's quickly go back and look. So we see that they're wiped here. They're going to take about 10 seconds to respawn. We come back. He uses the Zarya ult. If you look at the timer, they all go down. And then if we fast forward a little bit, here we are back, ready to fight at 3:35. So that only used about 25 seconds on the clock, and you burned a Zarya ult. That's why I don't really like the aggressive plays from the defense. It's better to wait for the offense to try to make a play and then counter it, because you wind up using more time on the clock that way. And you see that without a Zarya ult, NiP actually gets pushed back here. The Zarya ult would have almost certainly turned the fight. So was it worth having Faze push through here? And they're going to wind up, spoiler alert, finishing up the map in the next 15-20 seconds. Was it worth that to burn 20 seconds off the clock with your Zarya? I think that it's pretty easy to say no, it wasn't. So it's important to hold your ultimates on defense, particularly for the fight. You don't want to be aggressive. You don't want to be using ultimate when you don't have to, because it's inefficient in terms of time usage. So Faze is just going to clean up. NiP doesn't really have any tools to use to stop this push. Faze has ultimates, so they're going to wind up finishing the map. So now that we've had our intro game, players not so familiar with the strategy have been able to see it one time, sort of seeing what's going on. We can look at the nitty-grittier type of details with what's happening with these teams. So I'm not going to call this the 3-3 strat. I'm not going to call this the NiP strat or anything like that. I'm going to call this tank-centric, because if you look, NiP is not actually running 3-3 right now, and this is something that they do quite often. They have Zappos on the Hanzo instead of Zenyatta. And Faze also does not have a Zenyatta either. Shadowburn's on the Mei. So both of these teams are actually running 3-2-1. Not 3-3, but they're both running 3 tanks, so it certainly is what I would call tank-centric. Now, something I want you to pay close attention to this match is distance, and this is something I'm going to point out myself a little bit later on. And in 2-2-2 meta, teams have really not had to deal with distance very much, because they run a bunch of different heroes, DPS, tank, support, a bunch of different heroes that cover the entire range, the entire spectrum of distance. But with this tank-centric strat, it's really only short to mid-range. They're pretty much locked in the distance that they can do damage, and you can see that if you look at the health of these Reinhardt shields, it really does not go down. But anyway, we're going to get into the fight, because Himzy is going to get a huge hook on the Reinhardt for Faze, and Himzy has just really been a hooking god lately, particularly in this match. But losing the Reinhardt is going to put Faze at such a disadvantage that they're going to wind up losing the fight. There's no way to come back from that, really. Reinhardt is just such a key player in this strategy, particularly, that if you lose your Reinhardt right off the bat, it's pretty much done. But here we see it doesn't actually give up the point, because Rockus is just going to stand behind the car. No one's going to see him. And is this just like a blooper? Is just, oh, by the way, they wasted the ultimate on Lucio. Is this just a blooper? Did IMP just make a funny, just not see him, whatever? Maybe, but if you want to analyze that just a little bit, it does go to show how tunnel vision-y this tank-centric strat is, because they get really, really close up, super close. They don't have that vision of the battlefield, so it's much easier for them to miss stuff like that. Is it excusable? No. Is it silly? Yes. But you can sort of take it one step further and say that it's a little bit because of the comp they're running, but they're going to bust in because Faze wound up using up their Ana ult. NiP is going to have a big advantage going to this next fight, and they're going to run in and wind up cleaning up. We don't even wind up getting the ult off on Faze's Reinhardt. NiP is going to have a few ults going to this next fight. Faze is going to have a few ults as well. Pretty even. It is important to note that Faze will not be getting roof control. Again, they don't have a team comp that can even project damage across that distance anyway. Now, we're going to have a team fight, stuff's going to happen, people are going to die, but unfortunately the caster winds up DCing, so we can't see what happens for the rest of the round, so we're just going to go ahead and skip forward. That wasn't me, that was the stream. The casters wound up getting DC'd, so nobody knows what happened for the rest of that round. We do know the result, though, is that NiP finished the map with 2 minutes and 21 seconds to spare, so this is a very close match at this point, both teams within 15 seconds of each other. NiP will be attacking again and keeping the exact same comp as before, with the Hanzo, 3 tanks, 2 supports, and Faze will be swapping out, though, the Roadhog with a Tracer on 2Easy, and it makes sense because 2Easy wasn't really doing much on the Roadhog, but switching to a Tracer, though, is a bit questionable because, if, like I said, focus on distances, focus on damage. Tracer is sort of a bursty, close-range hero, doesn't do a lot of sustained damage. Against sustained high HP close range heroes that NiP has, Tracer's not going to be very effective. She's not going to be able to bust through these tanks, and she's also going to be just sort of killed very easily by the Roadhog, the Reinhardt, even the Zarya, if the Zarya has enough charge. But anyway, getting back into the fight in general, we're going to see not much damage coming out from either team. They're just sort of sitting here, hitting each other with balloons, essentially. Faze is right now hand-feeding the Ana ult on NiP, and this is because all of the heroes on Faze are just sort of doing these little tippy-tappy pokes, not doing much damage, but just doing enough damage to feed the Ana, while not getting any ultimate charges themselves. Now, if Faze had a dedicated poking hero, like a Junkrat, a Hanzo, something like that, not only would it be more effective, the poke would actually be accomplishing something than doing like 5 damage at a time, but also they'd be able to build up ultimate on one of their heroes at the same time they're building the ultimate up on NiP's Ana. And that's pretty important. So people say, oh, you want to intentionally take poke on Ana to build up your ultimate. That's true if the other team is not really coordinated, but if the other team knows what they're doing, they're going to just take advantage of it and build up their own ult charges, because Ana's ult charges fast, but a Mei ult charges just as fast, a Junkrat ult charges just as fast, even a McCree ult charges just as fast if you're getting in that free poke that NiP is donating to you. So Faze is going to come in here, and it's 40 seconds to the match. Faze is going to come in and use all of their ults, because they have the ult advantage, right? NiP used all of their ults to take the first point, but this is going to wind up straight up losing Faze the game. They just won the fight, but they lost the game. Why? Let's take a look back. So here we are. NiP just took the point, and if you look, they don't really have any big ults. They already used their Ana ult. They have the Hanzo ult, which is whatever. Maybe you can come up with the Reinhardt ult, but that's kind of inconsistent. All they have is the Reinhardt ult. Faze has a lot of really huge ults up. They're definitely going to win the next fight. It's 40 seconds to the match. Let's go back before they use it. It's 45 seconds to the match at this point. If they wipe Faze here, if they wipe NiP here, NiP is going to come back and they're going to have another chance, and Faze is not going to have any ults now. NiP has a good chance of retaking this if they get wiped here. If Faze wastes 15 seconds though, alright, so we're going to see this again. They're going to burn all their ults, easily wipe NiP, no problem. This looks great for Faze. You know, if you're a caster right now, you're saying, wow, that's a good fight, Faze beat him back. That's amazing. But if you look, Faze now has no ultimates. NiP has an Ana ultimate coming up on a Roadhog ultimate. They have a huge advantage going to this next fight. And what matters now is overtime. What matters now is actually Faze closing out the map. That team fight didn't matter because now we have 5 seconds left, and NiP is going to be able to get on the cart. Even though it was 5 seconds could mean the entire map. So like I said, they're going to come here with this big advantage, these ultimate advantages, and they're going to wind up taking the point back. All because Faze didn't wait an extra, 5-10 seconds to actually engage. Managing the clock is very, very important on defense, and you can see how much cart distance they're actually giving to NiP here. And of course the caster winds up DCing again. I think this is the last DC though. Maybe one more, but I believe this is the last one. Fortunately though, nothing of real interest was lost because the expected thing happened, and that is Faze still didn't have any ultimates, so NiP wound up choking them out at this door because it's really hard to get this back once you lose it like Faze did. So NiP should have taken this, and they wound up doing it because they had the positional advantage. So 5 seconds. If Faze had waited 5 seconds, it was more like 8, but 8 seconds, they would have stopped NiP from getting all of this. All of that. Small mistakes in Overwatch lead to huge results. Now, finally, Faze is going to wind up coming in here with a bunch of ults. They have the Mei ult, the Reinhardt ult. They're finally going to clean this up, win a team fight. NiP is going to go down the entire team, and the map is going to be closed out for NiP. But, like I said, they should have been stopped way before. They should have been stopped at point A. And it's not because Faze misplayed on an individual level. It's not because they aimed improperly. It's not because they messed up. It's just because they went and they killed NiP 5 seconds before they should have. So Faze is going to try to take this map back. NiP set an impressive benchmark that Faze is going to have a pretty difficult time meeting in only 2 minutes and 40 seconds, but they're going to try. So let's see what they're going to do. NiP is running the same tank-centric 3-3 strat they were running before on defense, and Faze again will be running the same offensive strat as well, the 3 tanks, 2 supports, and a Mei that they ran before. Now, before I was saying that I thought that this comp did not have enough damage, particularly I didn't think that the Mei comp really exploited the weaknesses that the tank-centric 3-3 comp have, and that's that mid to long range damage output that they just can't really match. The Mei doesn't really do that, but let's see what they do. We're going to come in here. The Mei's going to wind up walling off Fraggy again. Fraggy a little bit too far up. His team's a little bit too far back, and they're going to get this pick. Now, I talked about before, getting the pick on the Reinhardt is absolutely huge. Pretty much means that you should win the fight 99.9% of the time. But Faze, again, doesn't have enough damage. Nobody's dying. They've been on the point for a good 10 seconds now. Busted this point wide open, but just no kills, no damage. And so we're going to see NiP actually force them back. Ultimate's going to come out on Faze's Reinhardt, which is going to bait out the ultimate from NiP's Ana as well. So not a complete waste, but we're still going to wind up seeing NiP beat Faze back. So to elaborate on what I was saying before, 3-3 strat, the tank-centric strat, has a difficult time projecting damage into that mid and long range. Pretty much they're relying entirely on Himsy on the Roadhog to get sick hooks, but that's pretty much impossible as long as you're keeping up a Reinhardt shield. And like I said, these Reinhardt shields have not been going down this game at all. But let's get into the fight. Roadhog will be comboing with Zarya, getting a lot of damage on Faze, but a great grenade from the Ana is going to be able to stop a lot of that damage. But if we look there, just a quick little thing, quick little individual play thing. The Roadhog takes a lot of damage. He steps back, he takes a breather, but he doesn't turn around. And in fact, if he had turned around there, he would have lived. So when you take a breather as Roadhog, you're supposed to turn around and duck so that you can't be headshot. Here he doesn't, he faces forward, and he winds up getting headshot by the Mei. Now that extra damage wound up killing him, whereas the Ana was about to start doing a lot of healing, and the Roadhog would have actually lived if he had turned around there. If Himsy had turned around, he actually probably would have swayed the fight in NiP's favor. Just a little thing, but like I said, little mistakes in Overwatch come out with huge consequences. So as such, Faze is going to be able to take the point. Nice switch by 2easy. Going into the Tracer, getting to the point very quickly, but now they have 45 seconds. And at this point, NiP is up a lot of ultimates. They're going to have their Ana, their Reinhardt, and their Lucio. Faze is going to have Ana, Reinhardt, and that's about it. So NiP actually looking advantageous for this next fight. Are they going to make the same mistake, though, that Faze did and push too early? Let's see, it's 25 seconds. Getting to the point now where if NiP loses the fight, they're pretty much not going to be able to respawn. Looks like NiP is waiting, and now comes the initiation at 15 seconds. Like I said, nice spin around, by the way, on Fraggy. Really great Reinhardt ult. If you saw that little spin there. But NiP is going to wind up wiping this fight exactly. This is literally a mirror of what Faze did last match to them, or last round rather, to them. But because NiP waited an extra 10 seconds or so, Faze now cannot respawn, and they will in fact close out the map and not be able to get into that overtime that Faze allowed them to get into before. But let's get right into the next map, which is King's Row. So by the way, their overlay is a little bit messed up. It's swapped. So Faze is actually defending on the blue team, and NiP is attacking on the red team. And Faze wound up switching it up a little bit. 2easy is now on the Reaper, as opposed to the Tracer or the Roadhog like he was before. And yes, a Reaper is a quote-unquote tank buster, but he's still that same theme of he's close range. They have no way to project any damage over mid to long range. They're still not exploiting the weakness of this comp, and we're going to see that very, very clearly this round. Perfect example. So yes, while the Reaper is good against tank, he's not good against 3 tanks with an Ana boosted tank. So let's see how it goes. Now, again, NiP is just going to sit here and let Faze farm up their Ana ult. Faze, having no damage of their own really, is just going to do little tippity tap, 5 damage, 10 damage, 5 damage things, which is going to feed the Ana ult with basically no positive benefit for Faze at all. Now we're sitting here. It is 3 minutes and 27 seconds on the clock. It's 30 seconds into the game. No Reinhardt shields have gone down yet. In fact, NiP's Reinhardt shield is still not even cracked. It's at like 1500 or something. Faze's shield just barely, I didn't even think it went down. They just decided to drop it. Now Reaper's going to come in from behind. And again, remember, he does a lot of damage, but he doesn't do as much damage as 3 close range tanks. So he's going to get a really nice pick here on the Lucio, try to get the Ana, but the Roadhog's just going to wind up one-shotting him from close range. The Ana ultimate is going to be used, and so is the main ultimate. Very nice job by Shadowbaron to get that so quickly, but it doesn't matter. NiP is going to win the close range battle because Faze has the Reaper now, so they do have some damage close range, but they still have the Mei, who doesn't do much. NiP is going to wind up taking it despite Faze doing some clearly good individual play. Like, I would actually argue that Faze outplayed NiP there on an individual skill-based level, but NiP just had the comp. And yes, they do have the Hanzo. NiP has the Hanzo for long range, but imagine this. Imagine if Faze, let's go back real quick. Imagine if you're here, okay? Imagine if you're here and Faze had like a Junkrat, a Hanzo, a McCree maybe like 3 DPS. Imagine if they had 3 DPS here. A McCree, a Hanzo, and a Junkrat. Just an example of mid to long range damage dealers. Faze could not just stand here and let their Ana build up ultimate because they would legit be killed. Like, Junkrat, Hanzo, McCree is going to just kill you straight up. They can't stand here and smile in Faze's face, being like, hey guys, we're here, you can't do anything about us though. And they can't just take over the map like this. If they try to push into Faze, because you're saying, oh, now Faze doesn't have the tanks, so now NiP can just push in, well, Faze can just kite them back. Because NiP, all they have is the 1 Lucio speed boost. They don't have the Ana ult yet. So a DPS mid to long range comp is something I want to see out of teams to try to counter this tank-centric comp. Because NiP should not be allowed to just walk up to your point, sit there, stand there smiling at you, waving their hands, farming up their Ana ultimate with absolutely no problem. But anyway, let's get into the second part of this map. So you might be thinking, doesn't Hanzo kind of mitigate that mid to long range weakness that NiP has? And I think that might be what they're going for by running the Hanzo, but in reality it's sort of awkward. It doesn't really work because one Hanzo is not going to be able to stand up to an entire spam comp, like an entire mid to long range DPS comp, when the rest of your team is all still close range oriented. And in fact, it usually results in the Hanzo getting into awkward positions where he's too far up, further up than he's comfortable being, and it's actually pretty difficult for Hanzo to have really an impact in these fights when the rest of his team is all focused on being up close and personal. You see here, he gets harassed by Too Easy on Tracer, and he winds up having to go up and he gets slammed in the face by Faze's Reinhardt. Fortunately, the rest of NiP does great, winds up cleaning up the rest of Faze's squad, but you saw there that Zappos actually didn't do anything on the Hanzo. He doesn't really synergize at all with NiP's lineup, and you'll see that that's actually a theme for a lot of these fights. He still does work because he's just such a talented player, but it's definitely not very comfortable. Now we're going to see a really, really great charge come out by Fact Fiction, and it's going to wind up putting Fraggy down very low and picking off NiP's Reinhardt very, very early, not really letting him get much of an impact, which is going to give Faze a pretty big advantage. You're going to let Faze actually take back the checkpoint. By the way, this is a great place to hold on King's Row. So that checkpoint actually gives a spawn advantage to the defender. When you're that far out, Faze actually has faster spawn time than NiP does to that particular point. So this is a great place to hold. If you want to stop the cart anywhere on King's Row, you want to stop it there. But here we go. NiP is going to come back in. They have a lot of ultimates out. They're going to combo with the whole hog, and Faze just doesn't really have any defensive ultimates of their own, so they're going to wind up going down despite putting up a pretty good fight. So NiP is going to wind up taking that checkpoint, and let's see what Faze does. Faze is actually going to swap off of the Mei onto a Reaper, and again, good idea, because I like the fact that they are saying, oh, the Mei isn't really doing enough damage. But again, Faze is now getting squishier and squishier by the minute, by the switch, and they're not really getting any longer range. You're going to see the Hanzo is going to pick off the Tracer, who poked off a little bit too far outside of the Reinhardt shield, and NiP is just going to basically punch him in the face. That's what the comp is designed to do, and that's what Faze is letting them do with this comp. Now Faze is going to switch off to a Bastion last ditch, but NiP pretty much has this in the bag. They have the Reinhardt ult. It's going to be pretty difficult for Faze to be able to take this back. And indeed, they don't, and NiP winds up getting the map in about 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Moving right along, Faze is going to be attacking now, and they will be switching it up pretty radically to a 2-2-2 comp, more standard comp, and Shadowburn's going to be on a Genji in a second, and Zoms will not be playing Winston, he's going to be playing Zarya. So I was saying before that you needed that mid to long range presence to counter the lack of that for a tank-centric comp like NiP is running, but you need to be a little bit more brave. The reason 2-2-2 comps have been strong in the past is because they're sort of jack of all trades. They're pretty balanced, they kind of beat everything, and that's good in a game where there aren't really many good strats developed. NiP has come out with a strat that's all in, very, very strong in one particular element, and that's always going to beat something like a kind of generic 2-2-2 comp that's a little bit of melee, a little bit of long range, a little bit of healing, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. NiP's comp that goes all in on one thing is always going to beat that every time. So to beat that, maybe you don't have to go super all in on one thing, but you need to be a little bit more focused. And Faze right now is saying, well, we kind of want the close range stuff, you know, with the Genji also. We kind of want the long range, mid range stuff. They want to run this balanced comp that they're very comfortable with running, but that's just not going to work against tank-centric, and that's why a lot of teams have a difficult time just dealing with this. Because in the past, teams have been used to running balanced comps. Very sick hook, by the way. Sick hook by Himsey. Teams have been very used to running balanced comps. Teams have been used to running safe comps that sort of have a little bit of everything. And that's worked up until now. NiP comes out with a strat that's really all in on the close range. And teams like Faze are having a hard time dealing with this because they're just not brave enough to go really aggressively on, let's say, a mid to long range comp like I've been talking about. Now, Fraggy's going to wind up getting the Ana ultimate, being caught in this corner though, and he's going to be taking a lot of damage. He's actually going to go down. So Faze is going to wind up getting a bunch of nice picks. They also, if you notice, swapped onto a more tank-centric comp themselves, which, I mean, is better than running the kind of 2-2-2 we don't know what we're doing that they were doing before. But anyway, it's going to work, and they're going to wind up taking this first point, despite a few hitches in the way. 2 minutes. They definitely, like, NiP setting 3 minutes to take the map is a pretty high bar to beat. But let's see what Faze does. So Faze is going to switch to this kind of tank-centric-y thing. Pretty much the same thing as NiP was running last map, except instead of the Hanzo, they're running the Genji, which I actually like a lot better, because Genji still kind of brings that mid to long range presence to a degree, but he's much more comfortable in these skirmishes, in these close, grungy sort of fights than Hanzo is. So I think that he's going to have a better performance than the Hanzo did. But NiP holding this choke very, very well, preventing Faze from going through. Faze right now has quite a few ults, almost a full set, minus the Reinhardt, but he's going to be getting his ultimate up very, very quickly once the Ana ults him. NiP also has a full set, so let's see what happens. All the ults are going to come out, but the wall keeps out Faze's core members, and that's what's going to absolutely seal the fight. So Faze winds up burning 3 ults for nothing. They wind up losing it. But now they have another 3 ults versus NiP only having Roadhog, so they should be able to push out of this pretty easily at this point. Faze now has 3 ults up versus NiP's just the Roadhog ult, which isn't going to do much, so Faze should take this next fight pretty comfortably. There shouldn't be too much of a problem because they have a lot of big ults up versus NiP doesn't have much. But the Genji's actually in trouble. The Genji goes down, so that's 1 ultimate wasted on Faze. And NiP are actually getting some ground here. If NiP wins this fight, that'll be huge. That'll pretty much be the entire match because they will have burned so many ults on Faze, but, not using any themselves. But Faze is eventually going to wind up bringing it back. NiP is going to wind up wasting their Ana ult on the Reinhardt. probably shouldn't have at that point because there were already 2 or 3 down, and you'd already burned so many ults on Faze anyway. At that point, they had already won. There's no need to put more resources into the fight. But they do use the Ana ult, which might wind up biting him in the face. Biting him in the butt, biting him somewhere next fight. So Faze is coming up to this next checkpoint. NiP will be able to contest, but like I said, they are Ana ultless. But they are going to wind up having the Roadhog ult, Reinhardt, and Zarya. So here we go. The Mei wall is going to block the camera, I guess. Double Zarya ult's going to come out. Here comes the Ana ult. The Reinhardt on Faze is running around, but Faze is a little disoriented right now. NiP got sort of a surround on them, got much better focusing, and they're actually going to wind up pushing this back. Faze looking pretty dicey right now. Pretty low on time. At this point, the most they can do is match NiP if they play perfectly from here on out. But they're definitely playing at a disadvantage. I don't think they're going to be able to match NiP's 3 minutes at this point. NiP is going to use their Ana ult. And the Zenyatta ult also. Now, I'm not sure what they're really defending here. They're really not defending anything, and they wind up cleaning up the fight. But we already talked about this before. So NiP wound up using 2 pretty big ults, pretty fight deciding ults. And they're really not going to be burning much time off the clock for it, only 20 seconds or so. And now Faze gets to come in here with their Ana ult, with a Mei ult, with a Lucio ult. And you can see that NiP is a little bit pushed up. Looks like they're going to get wiped pretty handily here. Ana ult's going to come out as well, adding to that damage. And Faze is going to wind up wiping this, and that's because NiP, again, too aggressive on the defense. We saw this from Faze a little bit earlier. Faze is going to use the Zarya ult to wind up cleaning this up. And that's going to be the checkpoint. So NiP really should have wound up holding this at the second checkpoint. If they had had all of their ults there and actually fought when Faze walked up to them. Because like I said, they do have a spawn advantage from that point. That's a really good place to hold in King's Row. So potentially NiP could have just held right there at the second checkpoint. But they didn't. A little bit too aggressive. They do have 3 very nice ults now versus Faze. Hopefully can get up their Mei ult. If they don't get up their Mei ult, that's probably not a fight that they can win. And we see that the Roadhog ult is going to be burned on Faze. NiP is going to burn their ults. And like I said, no Mei ult means not quite enough to beat a Zenyatta and an Ana ult. This game is very, very oriented around ult economy. It's more important than a lot of people think. And you notice I'm talking a lot about, he used his ult, he didn't use his ult, and hopefully you're seeing how saving ults versus using ults actually plays a huge, huge role in whether you win or lose in Overwatch. So Faze has a lot of ults right now. 50 seconds left. This is the last fight they have, really, to take this. But NiP gets a lot of really nice kills. They wind up choking Faze out. And Faze looking a little sad right now. 30 seconds left. The best they can do at this point is probably overtime finish, meaning they need to hold NiP for 3 minutes at the first point. Faze themselves only has a Lucio ult, and the Reinhardt winds up getting picked off. But let's see if we can pull some heroicism here. Now, NiP is actually pushing way out to insane degrees. Maybe being a little cocky here. And they're going to wind up actually just totally giving up the card. Like, what even is a payload? We just want to go out here and kill you. And that's going to wind up resulting in Faze winning this fight. And NiP, I mean, they didn't really throw because they're still really far ahead. But that fight was pretty handily theirs. And they wound up pushing out for no reason. So Faze now wound up farming up 3 ults. NiP is not really going to have anything, so they actually should wind up taking this pretty easily here. Reinhardt, especially a Mei ult. I don't think that NiP is going to wind up being able to push through this Mei ult at all. We're going to see the wall comes out, the ults come out, everything comes out. NiP does have the Lucio ult, but it's not going to matter. The Reinhardt gets a nice triple kill. Jeez. but that's it. NiP winds up going down. Faze gonna finish the map. So now NiP has 3 minutes to take the first point of this map. That's quite a lot, and judging by their history so far, I think they'll be able to do it. But if we look, they're still running the same tank-centric comp with the token Hanzo, I'm going to call him, and Faze is also running tank-centric as well with a Mei. Now, I want to show you something for reference. So if you look at how slowly these Reinhardt shields are going down, I'm going to show you something. So here's a match where Dignitas was running a full-on spam comp, and here's Anox's Reinhardt is going to pop out for a second, and look how fast that went. That was so fast. That was literally like 1 second to take out 1,000 HP on that shield. So back to the match. Again, we're tickling each other with balloons. Not really much is happening. Just sort of poking, again, feeding NiP their Ana ult for pretty much no benefit to themselves. So NiP is going to get their Ana ult. Reinhardt's going to go. He's going to kill everybody, or at least provide enough distraction for his team to kill everybody. And that's going to be the first point for NiP and the match. So NiP does wind up taking this series 3-0, which is actually 2-0 because they came from winner's bracket, remember. Anyway, that's it. So will the NiP strat be the next unbeatable thing, the next tier 0 meta? Well, I hope you saw, along with me, a lot of chinks in the armor in this match. A lot of places that NiP could have been countered that they weren't. And it's not just Faze, by the way. This is lots of teams are having a difficult time with this because they're just not used to it yet. And it causes them to not exploit things that they should be exploiting, maybe making some mistakes that they shouldn't be making, that gives NiP and other teams running tank-centric strats maybe a little bit more room than they should be having. So once teams start exploring a little bit more, I think once you see teams start being brave and running 3 DPS, more mid to long range stuff, committing a little bit more, not just sticking into that 2-2-2 safe, balanced mindset, I think we're going to see that it just becomes another strat that's good, but it's not going to dominate the entire meta. And you can start to see Korea's experimenting with that a little bit. I can show some VODs another day, but there's just lots of things that can be done. And I will be following up with this, going over some more 3-3 stuff, going over some more tank-centric games in the future, but I hope this gave you at least an initial to intermediate understanding of what's going on and sort of how the strat works at least. But I think that just about wraps it up. So any questions or concerns, make sure you leave them in the comments below. Good luck in solo queue, and have a great day. Peace out, guys.